Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you as usual from the Extreme Studios in the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am joining RDV in the Great Midwest up near the Chicago area limits because tonight we're going to be reviewing a great film from the 90s, one of the best. One of the few movie remakes, I think, RDV, that just matches the awesomeness of the original Quinn Martin production, The Fugitive. And of course, that is the one with Harrison Ford from 1993. This is a stellar film, RDV, from top to bottom. Great acting, great writing, great looks. The city of Chicago obviously is there. And I kept thinking to myself, I want to see The One-Armed Man, because this is one of the few older shows I remember watching with my parents as growing up. So when the movie came out, I said, how are they going to do this? Damn it, they hit a home run. This is good stuff. Well, I've seen this movie several times, but not for a while. Just watched it recently, and it's never grown old on me. I think this is a great film for anybody to watch of any disposition, no matter what your likes and tastes are. What's your take on this film?
I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, film of the 90s. I really like this. Everybody can talk about Mission Impossible came out, and then they also had James Bond relaunched in the 90s. But this, you had Tommy Lee Jones in a perfect role as the U.S. Marshal. Harrison Ford, who's very, very a phenomenal actor, great in anything he does, whether it's Star Wars or it's Indiana Jones, he is a solid actor. And literally, he took this, like, remember we reviewed Frantic. Frantic was another one. He was not a fugitive, but they're starting to question things about him. The movie.
Yes.
I always love when you have a chase throughout movie. This is the movie when someone, like I said, this was phenomenal. I love this movie. This is the second time I've watched it, though, in a long time, because I watched it a long time ago. And whether I love movies or not, I really don't go back and watch a lot of them, because a lot of them, they're one and done, because I know what's going to happen next, and it just becomes boring to me. I like it when I can watch a movie, like, maybe like once in a couple of years, and can I forget, like this. I forgot about the whole entire beginning. I thought the beginning is like him at dinner, and then, like, while he's there, then his wife gets murdered, and then she shows up. But instead, I forgot it's done in flashbacks, and which really threw me off. I'm like, wait, do I have the right cut? Because a lot of times we get these where, it's a director's cut or it's a new edit for a new 20th anniversary or 30th anniversary cut, and I hate that crap. Because I like watching the original version, and that's it, So going into this, obviously the One-Armed Man. I forgot who played it. All I know is that his friend's involved, and I just remember the tunnel scene where he basically, at the sewer scene, he jumps into like the spillway.
Yes.
And then Anthony Napolitano, whatever his name is, the guy. He's basically he played Ben Urich in Daredevil, the horrible Daredevil movie, but. Phenomenal acting crew in here too. Tommy Lee Jones is he carries it. Harrison Ford carries it. They don't need anybody else. Julianne I think it's Julianne Margulies.
Margulies.
Or who is the redhead? Julia something. I forgot what it is. It's not Margulies. I think it's something else. But she is phenomenal in this.
Oh, Julianne Moore, you mean?
Julianne Moore, yeah.
Yeah, this is early in her career. Yes, Julianne Moore. Okay, yes.
Look her back then, and again, I love how he just takes the time, like you'd see in a TV show. Someone be like, "Well, I'm going to save this kid's life," and he does it. And this, like I said, I've never seen the show. A lot of the times I look at the shows like Mission Impossible or Avengers or whatever stuff, and they look horrible to me. Just by looking at the production value and stuff, like The Prisoner, I'll never watch that show because it looks horrible. The Fugitive, I might. Or maybe even Secret Agent, Man from Uncle. Those look a little better production value or storytelling going. But this movie, though, without comparing to the TV show, phenomenal.
Yeah, what I'll say about the TV show, being a big fan of that, we did review The Prisoner here for our stream TV, me and the young 20-something Professor Pixelin. The thing about The Prisoner is, unfortunately, is when we were watching it, I was awestruck because I remembered the episodes being phenomenal and just really exhilarating and well written, all because supposedly Secret Agent Man is also Danger Man, the same character allegedly, and it was a really philosophical show, except for the problem is with the 13 episodes or so, half of them were filler because that's what the studio wanted to agree to them, so half of them are shit. When you have a show like this one here, The Fugitive, back in the 60s, Quinn Martin, he did The Invaders and a few other things. you're going to have a lot of shows that deal with certain themes and all that. And you're going to have 20, 25 episodes. And so some of it you don't remember, but what's interesting is we've talked about this before, even though we've not reviewed The Incredible Hulk yet, or a TV show from the 70s. We talk about the Everyman thing where you're going from town to town. It's kind of like a Western. You get a brand new setup with the same character, and you get to see what happens to him under different situations. We talked about it with Kung Fu, the TV show, and other things. Here, you don't. I wondered how that was going to translate here, because you're right. The little things that are polished on his character, some of the best scenes here that some people might be like, well, we could edit that because it's not really prudent to the story. And that one scene that you kind of just mentioned where he goes to save the boy's life because he just can't help himself. And that's exactly what he would do in the TV show. And on a TV show, of course, he was trying to make his way to figure out who the one-armed man was and track him. And he'd take up odd jobs, do different things, get caught up in a moral quandary. And you get that here, and it's a great bit of acting by Harrison Ford. So why what happens to him, we don't really care about, honestly, do we? I don't. It's the cops aren't assholes. They're just, hey, we got to get you. And you get that sense from his team too. It's like, it's not personal, it's just what we do. There's no sense of animosity, but it's just a very serious thing about how they take it. And what better scene to exemplify that than when they go after the train wreck and Tommy Lee Jones is there with his team talking about how we're going to do this and do that and everything. And he's just sizing up the situation. You're like, who's going to do it better than that? That gives this movie the sense of this greater feel and weight to it that makes it just feel like you're watching a blockbuster, even if you're watching on your TV at home. It's that good.
I'm backtrack. What do you say? Who do we don't care about?
In other words, I'm not saying who we don't care about, but he gets caught up in a situation, and why he gets caught up into it, I don't really care about. I just know that he's in it. I know he's going to figure his way out at the end. It's what he does with all that time to get to that point that's important.
Well, I care about both those characters, yeah.
It's not the character, it's the situation I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, Tommy, you could not redo this movie ever again. I know they tried Three Days of the Condor was another one they did back in the day with Robert Redford.
Yes.
And then they actually did that. It's called Condor, the TV series, and they did it really well for adapting the movie. Whenever you have a chase movies like these, they're hard to like. I guess I'd say it's the believability. Here, it made sense for how exceptionally smart he is. They even show him being smart, saving the kid's life. What he does as far as stealing the badge, making a new badge, dyeing his hair,
right?
And just when he's cornered in the ambulance in the tunnel, and he basically takes he realizes he's screwed, so he crawls down and he goes along the cars out of sight because the cops are on both sides of the tunnel entering in. He finds open sewer grate and he goes into the storm drain. Like, every time you see Harrison Ford, it's his character. They're reminding you how exceptionally smart this guy is. When it comes to looking up the names of prosthetics, he took a list. He snuck his way in there, posing as a janitor, going to Cook County, and he just happened to save the kid along the way because that's what he can't stand is when people misdiagnose stuff. And also he cares about people, and he's done this twice in the movie. He saved the cop. When the train bus basically got flipped over and landed on the road track, he pulled the shanked deputy out, carried him out there, and you see the deputy, the other one was in there, basically trying to take credit. Oh yeah, I pulled him out, and they're like, "Well, where's your keys?" And they find all this stuff. It's like they really show that his character is innocent through the movie, and then he's smart. That also Tom Lee Jones also shows that he's smart because the way it's set up, like after he jumps into the water and he's like, dude, he's still alive. Let's dredge it. I don't care. He's like, everybody's like, no, there's no way he survived that. 1 in a million chance. We'll find the body. And immediately you see Harrison Ford's character walking down the road and getting picked up by this woman. Okay, and so then the next thing you know, they go back to like the U.S. Marshals. They show you and they tell you like, oh, we found the inmate. He's been holding up with this woman. She picked him up from work last night and staying there. So you're thinking they're going after Harrison Ford, right? But it's actually the other inmate that they gave the keys to and got away. And the way they approach that situation, it also shows you that this character strengths for Tommy Lee Jones. Now he not only does he care about his people, but he's exceptionally smart. So it's a cat. I love this cat and mouse game where they're both. It's like, and I love. They made such a meme out of this when they're in the storm drain, and he's like, "I didn't kill my wife." He's like, "I don't care."
But the thing is, he says it in such a way where you believe him.
Yeah.
But he's not being a dick.
No, he's saying because
it doesn't matter. I got you. You're here. Come here.
Well, he's got his own Tom Lee gun. He fell down. He's after Harrison Ford grabbed the wire and carefully going down this ramp. Harrison Ford, or not Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones falls like a dork into the water. His gun falls in the water. Next thing you know, he's Harrison Ford's pointing his own gun on him. And of course, he's gonna say whatever because he doesn't want to get shot. And then you find out later, after Harrison Ford walks away, he pulls out his own spare gun out. Like, he's a clever guy. Obviously at this point, I was thinking, if I was in Tommy Lee Jones' shoes, I wouldn't trust these guys because criminals 9 times out of 10 will say anything they can to get you to believe them.
Right.
That's just the way some of these are. It's very rare to come across somebody who, like Richard Kimble, who actually is innocent, isn't going to kill you. Anyone else, other criminal would have shot Harrison Ford, or not Harrison Ford, but shot Tommy Lee Jones with her, right there. But they didn't. So like I said, it's a very, very fun movie. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. I do recommend everybody, if you have not seen this, go watch it from beginning to end. Put your phones away. You're not even gonna need your phone because this grips you. This is a classic movie, and I'm trying to think, this wasn't Touchstone. This was who was it? No, I'm trying to Warner Brothers. And like I said, this was just a fantastic cast. You had Andrew Davis doing the directing, which I believe he's done some other big names too as well. Let me look post IMDb, but
he's done some stuff. Code of Silence, Above the Law, Under Siege.
Under Siege, yeah. Under Siege was a good movie.
Yes.
The Guardian, I have not watched that, but I mean, Chain Reaction was another big movie he did. He directed that. Above the Law. As much as I don't like
Above the Law is tremendous. It really is a very good movie too.
But there was one movie he did 3 years prior to that called Code of Silence.
Yes.
Chuck Norris.
That's correct.
A Perfect Murder, another good movie, came on in 1998.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of stuff, and then I'm trying to think of these. I'm looking up the IMDb of the writers, Jeff Stuart and David Twohy. I'm curious exactly. Okay, Die Hard, Lock Up. Yeah. They probably both worked. I would imagine they probably both worked on it. No, the other one did Riddick and Pitch Black. That is David Twohy and G.I. Jane. Those are his big movies. Yeah. So you had not only a good director, you had a good writing group, and you had a good cast. And it's 1993. So guess what? There's no smartphones.
Yes.
There are. Yeah.
You could have a chase.
Yes, you could have a chase.
Yes.
And it made it believable the way he could get away, go into these places, hospitals, they have low security, and he just hides his face. The very beginning, when he has to shave, he sneaks into the hospital. He stole the tow truck driver's overalls, goes into the hospital back entranceway carrying a box of apples because they're doing delivery, goes in this patient's room who's in a coma, neck brace or whatever, and he basically goes and he's gonna hide in the bathroom. The nurse comes in, he opens the door, so she walks in to fill the guy's bottle. And I don't know if he drank the water from the guy's water or not, but she goes to fill the guy's cup of water up, and then as soon as she's done, he closes the door, and then he shaves and stuff, and then he grabs the guy's clothes and then walks out, and he's got a doctor thing, and the one cop stops him. He's like, "Hey, I'm looking, He's like, and I just love this because this is believable. Because
yes, and it's tense, right?
It is
just in a hallway, yeah.
And like a lot of the guys said, what idiot would go back into a place where you're the most wanted? It doesn't. That is Joe Pantoliano. He's such a phenomenal addition to this. Helen Kimble, played by Sela Ward, phenomenal actress. Kind of sucks that she was out in there as much. She gets bumped off right away.
Mm-hmm.
You see a little bit, but oh my gosh, the cops, how half-assed they are. I'm thinking it's Illinois cops. I kind of makes sense.
Well, some of it's more of a regional kind of thing too, and there's
Yeah.
always some hints of the local versus
Yeah.
state versus federal, and the boundaries and who's in charge and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and that's why Tommy Jones stands out with it. But here's the thing: there's definitely so many things we can say about it. One thing I'll mention, that going back to the TV show, is that I remember watching it, and my parents were watching it. It was in syndication, so that was a big thing. You got to like 3 or 4 seasons, a certain amount of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a lot of money by regurgitating that content. And so Fugitive made it out there, and my parents were rewatching it. And this is like 80s or whatever. And one other show that was really popular at the time, of course, was MASH and Dallas and some other things too. I know you're starting to watch some 80s TV shows yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm watching this black and white show. It's probably 4:3 is the aspect ratio over 4, so it's that big boxy kind of look, right? The old stuff, black and white, most of it, I believe. And I'm watching this guy who just looks tired all the time, like he's just worked 12 hours in the emergency room, and he always talked like this: "My name is David Jansen. I'm looking for the one-armed man." But it was just, that's how he was, and I didn't get it. And we're watching. I'm like, okay, this is all right, I guess. And the cop chasing him was very stern. And then I remember my parents said, no, you have to watch the ending. This is the last couple episodes. I'm like, okay. So we'd watch it. And I remember being, okay, it's kind of a cool ending. And they just both told me, they said, look, all these shows that are popular, like Who Shot JR, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The Fugitive's ending, the big blockbuster thing, biggest ending for the longest time in television until like Who Shot JR.
Does he catch his wife's killer?
Exactly. And you know what? It's wholesome. So a part of what we're saying about the old show that's also prevalent here in the new show is you don't have necessarily the sense of people, and I've been saying asshole or dick a lot tonight with them, is that people aren't acting like that. They're being professionals. They're on flip sides of it. There's still something humane about what's happening here, because one of the best things I like about Tommy Lee Jones isn't his command of a situation and running his team and how well they respond, being an alpha and all that. It's the fact that, like, when he's sitting up there at the desk and considering things, it's slowly and surely, as you watch him, you can almost start to see the wheels turn in his brain about, I don't know if Kimble's not guilty, but maybe he's a little bit more innocent than what I thought, because why would he stay and do it? And they don't make it that obvious, but the clues start picking up. So even though Kimble's doing his own thing and being true to his character, helping people out despite his tough situation, same thing's happening with Gerard. And so it's like he's starting to feel like, well, why would this happen? So he asks himself, like anybody would, takes the ego out of the equation. He's like, what if I'm thinking about this wrong? What if he is innocent? Then how could I predict where he'll be? What is going on? And then, of course, you start to feel like, of course, like the doctor may be involved in it, or whatever, the guy he knows and everything. So it's interesting to watch that unfold, and he starts getting to the point of realizing,
once he gets
okay, he's the real deal.
Once he gets the photo of I think his name's Grease or Sykes.
Yes.
And then you see everything with the doctor and all that stuff, and and just like everything's going on. I'm like, holy crap! It's like, it starts clicking in, and I love that he calls Gerard, Kimble. He's like, and they're like, great, another wannabe Kimble calling in, because it happens all the time. People call in for 15 minutes, whatever, and he's like, do you remember what you said to me in the tunnel? Yeah, and he's like, I remember you putting my gun in my face. And like he purposely wants to draw him there, and the way he sneaks out and everything, it's just like they show up, and they're like, and then Sykes comes home, and he's got the wooden hand, and he's in like they're interested. Like, why is he interested? Well, he's like, I don't know. It's like, I've never met the guy. And then as it comes through, when they find out, like, the phone call that was made in the Sykes from Kimble's car, like, why would Kimble call Sykes? His car the night of his wife being killed. And then the little thing a lot of people miss is the fact that is that Kimble's friend borrowed his wife's car.
Yes.
If you're not paying attention at the very beginning, you will miss that. It's a huge clue.
Yes.
And so
not trying to say too much about it, just in case you haven't seen it or don't remember it.
But I mean, like, it's like it's really cool, and it makes sense. 'Cause a lot of times you get these movies, like, and how they wrap it up is like really rushed and like really kind of loose, like this would never happen, and stuff.
One
But
thing I think Harrison Ford does really well acting in here, and it's not quite the same emotional reaction that David Jansen portrays with that. I talk about him being kind of like tired or intense or hungover, smoking all the time like you would do in the 60s and all that. What I think Harrison Ford does well is he conveys a sense of,
emotion.
well, you can almost sense the desperation out of him in these situations here, where, to your point, you've mentioned it a few times earlier, which I thought was spot on, about he's using his brains to figure his way out of situation. He's not bullying anything. He can't do all that. He's got limited resources. He has to be quick and think on his feet, just like anybody else that would be like, say, an emergency room surgeon. You've got to diagnose quickly the situation and make decisions, and he does do that. And he's not bitter about revenge. And one of the things I had mentioned earlier, and I still think it's true, is there is kind of a wholesome quality to it, where there's still a sense of, okay, they'll just believe me. I just have to find out the truth, and the truth will set me free, kind of thing. And that's kind of hokey by today's standards, but back then, I think that's one of the things that attracted people to the original show and the ending of it, because it is that way. Where a lot of people like, never give anybody the ending, because then you're screwed,
Like I said, after seeing the movie, the show kind of seems kind of redundant to me, because, well, to me, my thing is, like, I'm gonna take a leap of, and a guess here. Each week he helps with somebody new, right?
Yeah.
Always trying to prove his innocence.
Exactly.
It's like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
He's trying to, and find a cure, and along the way he helps out people. It's kind of like, oh, what was the other one we were with David Carradine? Kung Fu. Same thing. If you want, it's like there was a huge theme going around in the 70s and in the 80s and 60s.
But that was the whole thing too, is how do you, another interesting thing that was going on in the 60s and 70s, in my opinion, that this movie is relevant, even though this movie's over 30 years old for the Fugitive, is that how do you portray a Western, which, still by the 1950s, half of people are living in rural areas and all that, and television are still really popular, and they're starting to die down, and you're starting to get more of the modernized kind of feel and skyscrapers and stuff on television. So how do you carry that older audience that has the ability and means and time, more importantly, to sit at home and watch television if you're retired or whatever? And so you take this Western concept of going to a brand new town and having some sort of moral dilemma with it. And that's why I've always say that you might be having a specific Eastern philosophy and Kung Fu that's explored in each episode of Kung Fu.
Smith and Jones does this too.
Exactly. And that's, I know that's something you're watching, but they did that in The Fugitive.
Yeah, it's like I said, like, it's a lot of these shows are a dime a dozen. Like I said, it's just a different person's name, different situation, but they're always on the run, and along the way they help out people. It's like, if you're into that, cool, that's more power to you. But I liked that this was actually summarized up, and it didn't feel like it was rushed. Like a lot of today's movies, it felt like this should have been a TV series instead of chopping it up and trying to putting it into a 2-hour movie. Right. This was well done, well put together. And I said what really sold this was Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford. No one else. I mean, their acting doesn't make a difference in here. You got, like I said, you had the only one I thought was kind of cool for being a supporting actor was Joe Pantoliano, because he brings a little bit of comic relief in this. He does it in U.S. Marshals as well. And any movie he's really in, he's kind of like, really, do I really have to do this? It's like, okay, whatever. And because like he has a Tommy Lee Jones support group, in here, like
it is.
They're all throwaways.
Well, that one lady's in Bad Monkey, very small character. She's also in Lost. So they've got a good crew in there. To your point,
L. Scott Cadwell. And then you had Biggs, played by Danny Roebuck, and Joe and Harrison Ford's friend Charles Nichols, played by Jeroen Krabbé. Like I said, these are all not. They're not We're not all more throwaway characters, but
not everybody's an A player.
No, and that's great about it. You don't need that, because I said, like, as long as your heavies can deliver, the other one you kind of ignore, like, kind of the side characters. It's kind of like we watched Bone Collector. Ed O'Neill was in there, but like you were too busy focused on Angelina Jolie, and then you also had Queen Latifah who's in there too. But the other one was Denzel Washington. You had some of these side characters in there, but they weren't really like they weren't really stealing away the spotlight. They're just kind of there, like the fill time until you actually got that plot going.
Right.
And this was great. And then I'm reading up about Harrison Ford. Apparently, he tore his ligaments, or like when he was running in the woods. And he said, no, I'm going to finish filming until this is done. Yeah, he had some damaged ligaments in his leg, and until they were done filming, and then he went to go and have surgery. Ugh.
Yeah, and he was older at the time. I think he was around 50 or so, and he's always a physically fit kind of guy and all that. But he might be 6'1", 6'2", and physically fit, but he doesn't come across as a physical stud, right? No, he comes across as a middle-aged doctor.
It added the believability, the limp.
Yeah,
when he's in the woods.
Yep.
When he gets out of the water, he makes it the water. He goes on the land. He's sitting there. He lays. He turns real slow on his back, and he's shivering, and you can see his teeth kind of chattering and stuff a little bit. Mm-hmm. And like that's believable. Nowadays, if someone would do they'd be cold like that, and they don't really see their teeth chattering and all that, and that's about it.
Well, one thing about some of the scenes you talked about, as far as being a chase, I think it is kind of tough because usually there's a chase scene or a different thing, and with all the
there's 2 chase scenes.
Well, but I'm just thinking in general, depending on how you look at it, to me the whole movie is a big chase. Any of the Hong Kong or Eastern cinema martial arts movies we've done, we talked about, say with Jackie Chan, you're going to have a foot chase, you're going to have a parkour scene, you're going to have a climbing scene, right?
Yeah.
I think in here one of the things we like is the fact that the physicality of what he goes through. It seems like whenever the chase part to it's over, or the scene that's got some tension in it, like they're in a hallway, you feel that while you're watching it. And so that's great because we're not all ass kickers. We're going to do all these monkey flips and beat everybody up and not move a hair or sweat or anything like that. To your point, you just described a scene where we're coming out of the river there where he's cold and he's shivering. You're going, okay, that's not CGI. His teeth aren't chattering with a sound effect. It's believable. And so the fact that he's reacting with his elements there and that's getting caught on film, that's magic. Much in the same way that like when they do the clips of the foot chase scene during St. Patrick's Day, where they dye Chicago River green and all that stuff there too. Yeah. And well, a lot of this wasn't filmed in Chicago, but the point is you feel like you're in Chicago. And Chicago's a big city where you go like,
no, but
you could get lost in Chicago and find that subterranean area that exists among the streets of the average person too busy from their job going from day to day to take notice of you. And you feel like you could go get lost. And that's what this river does well.
That river being green is something they do every year.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if they do it in New York or in other places, but in Chicago, they always dye that river green.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was authentic. It wasn't just just going to some other town and dumping a bunch of gallons in there and making green just for the movie. No, they actually were in Chicago on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, the whole thing with the one-armed man is, and I'm just shooting off the hip here. I remember there being a real old horror movie where like somebody dumped somebody in a wheelchair down a flight of stairs. And that was really shocking and all that. And the idea that a one-armed man, you're like, really? It could be capable.
You mean Tom Udo and the lady?
I forget what it is. We've talked about it before. But the fact that a one-armed man could be the source of so much frustration, this and that, the part of you would be like, really? They would put that as the person he's chasing, rather than the rich, evil, person, corporate guy, greed guy, right? So it was kind of interesting they did it, but there's something.
It's great about that.
Yeah, but here's the thing too. A lot of people, when we've talked about this with Rambo, a lot of attention's not paid to certain parts of society at certain times in movies and all that. And one of that obviously was
the guy leaves behind. I'm coming to get you. Like that guy.
Well, PTSD specifically, really.
But I mean.
Right, but the whole idea of the consequences of things. And so a one-armed man, you're like, hey, I don't care if you're one-armed man. You fucking killed my wife. I'm going to get you. You know what I'm saying? And so I like that. But yet there's something wholesome on the other side of it, like where we see a big chunk in here in the second to third act of him getting to the hospital, trying to figure out how to find this guy. And so it's not like they spend a lot of time talking about how things are great, but they educate the audience a little bit about the fact, hey, there's a lot of people that come to hospitals and they need therapy because they've lost limbs because of whatever, and they do all that. So it's not being preachy, but I appreciate the fact that they showed something like that with it too. There's a certain humanity in that as well.
Also, security staff has also been beefed up way since then, since 9/11. Everyone, no matter where you are, go to hospital. A lot of it, you need a key code to scan to get into places like that. And there's always cameras everywhere too.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to get this far is mainly because security was lax by then. Nobody thought anything was going to happen. You have a cop there, you know. So now with everything that was heightened up was increased because of that. You know, I don't know if it's kind of lax since then, probably a little bit, but I mean, like a lot of like he was able to get with this stuff. A lot of those chase shows because smartphones. It wasn't smartphones. You had a hard time tracking people.
Right.
Born Identity. He had a burner phone and he just breaks it in half, you know. Now you see them. Now they use all the camera intersections, you know, to find people now. Big Brother does. Actually, we probably should watch Eagle Eye after this.
Oh,
No, but I mean, no, I'm just saying, Big Brother now has much more ways of tracking people now these days. But whereas back then, you kind of could blend in, you know. It's especially back in the '60s. Remember, like we just reviewed Escape from Alcatraz.
right.
Those guys, there's no way they can prove that they didn't survive.
You know, if I had to nitpick and say what's the worst thing about this movie or what's something bad about
the ending.
Well,
yeah,
just the ending of it. I'm not going to spoil any specific things about it. It's just sort of there to me. It's effective. It's okay. But it's like everything else for it is like incredible to me. This is just like, okay, you know, it's fine. I'll accept it or whatever.
The ending made sense, you know.
That's the way to describe it. It makes sense, but it doesn't have to be.
It wasn't like Die Hard 2 ending, you know, like that, you know, but like it doesn't have to be that explosive, you know. But like you said, like, you know, he saved Tommy Lee Jones' life, and and that's all I'm gonna say about that because people haven't seen it. And I'm shocked. If you have not seen it, you must be very young then. You must be like in your 20s if you've never seen this movie or heard of it.
It's so hard. Look, I saw it when it came out live in the theaters, and it's really hard to communicate. And I've said this only about a few films about how much watching it was a fun experience and how much the audience loved watching it while they were watching it.
I saw it dead on VHS.
Man.
Yeah.
And you've not seen this on the big screen, have you?
Never seen a big screen. This is the movie that I'm surprised. Why? There's so many movies that they should be putting back on the big screen. Like, I don't care to see Casablanca on the big screen. I don't need that.
I would. Absolutely. Take my money.
Give me this. And I'd rather have Dark Passage over Casablanca any day.
Well, I'd see either. I'd see all three, honestly.
But I mean, like, these movies like this, like I was like, they don't really do these anymore. Like the last one I remember hearing about was Catch Me If You Can. Never watched it. But
I actually think it's an excellent movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I just never got around to watching it. My tastes started to change after this. I started getting more into like Riddick, you know, was another one, Pitch Black stuff. Mm-hmm. Started watching more stuff like that. This, like I said, this is fun. And part of me is like, okay, I want to compare it to U.S. Marshals because U.S. Marshals was good too. And they both had you had another good actor, Wesley Snipes, yes. You know, being the fugitive. But as much as I love Wesley Snipes, this is the better of the two films.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. Like I said, like, you know, just everything about this, like, I love the Richard Kimble's character, and if they redid this, I don't know who they choose. I don't know if they go with Lucas Till or something like that, or some young guy. You know, obviously, because Harrison Ford wasn't that old. I mean, he was old. He was in his probably like 40.
No, he was like in his 50s.
Was his 50s in 1993?
I believe so, around there. I think he's closer to 50. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's aged well. Like you say, he's taking care of himself, and he's always, you know, been that kind of guy or whatever. And smoking a lot of pot, I'm sure, kind of helped him, you know, mellow out. Yeah. But he just. It's what kind of doctor are you going to believe in? You know, everybody's a little negative about the healthcare system in the United States, and that whole thing of the doctor. Like, the one thing about doctors too, you know, in case it's lost on the younger audience too, and it's something actually I didn't even think about, but I think it's pertinent to this, is doctors and teachers had a great deal of respect back then, which they certainly do not have now, especially teachers. And if you grew up like me, I was a child in the 70s, we had, for our own personal reasons, for a great period of time there, our own family doctor, an immigrant. And I remember that was like one of the last times that you would have a doctor that would come to your house and just, you know, check in on everybody and all that stuff. And if you needed something major, you could, you know, go see him in his office or whatever. But people held doctors in such high regard, personally, professionally, for the sacrifice for what they would do. It's not the same right now, right? With big pharma and everything, it's just not. So I just wonder if a movie could be made like that, because again, I talk about that genuine sense of humanity where people respected a doctor. A doctor would never murder his wife. He just, you know, a doctor's a good person generally, no matter what kind of doctor, you know. A cop's generally a good kind of guy. He would never do something whatever like that. Cops are generally wholesome and uphold the law and all that stuff. And that's just not how people feel or think today, right? So that's one of the disappointing things I think about today's culture, is that there's, I think, very few roles that exist like it where you could make a movie like it. Because at the end of the day, this isn't a particularly violent or bloody movie or an evil or a mean movie. It's just a thrill chase. But it is kind of wholesome in a way, because, you know, you have your, I guess, I don't want to say a happy ending. I would say a satisfactory ending with it and all that too. But it's hard, because when we just did Anaconda, right? It's a good movie done well. We're not probably ever going to watch it again, but it's above average for what it is. But we are like, say, Mission Impossible, take my money. There's very few franchises that you go, this is real action that's not a CGI fest. Yes, there's some stuff in here too, but the thrill of the chase, these are the kind of movies that right now we're looking back going, man, remember the day when they would have like The Fugitive, or they would have something like this, like Blade? And so it's interesting, because as we're starting to dive more into 90s films, we're starting to see that pop up a bit more.
Well, I was trying to think of, there's something we reviewed on this channel. I brought up Frantic. That's also, I put in a playlist for everybody to look
Roman
at.
Polanski, great film.
Polanski, great film. But also a year before this movie came out was Patriot Games, which he also reviewed on his channel. Another suspense thriller, you know. Check those out. I mean, Harrison Ford was doing a bunch of them. He did Witness back in, I think it was 88 or 85.
Something like that, yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at Presumed Innocent was the other one in 1990.
You Cannot Stop Him, Gene Hackman, Richard Gere,
Devils.
All these guys. And a lot of it was political. There was a lot of political stuff in the 90s.
And then he went into Devil's Own.
Mm-hmm.
Air Force One was okay. I like 6 Days, 7 Nights. That was another one he did. I'm looking at his IMDb right now.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah. You know what, Bill? And that's all that matters. Sorry.
That's exactly right. Well, what else is there to say about The Fugitive? I'm looking at the comments. We've addressed all those too. I mean, we're gushing, which we rarely both do, but this is that good of a movie.
Well, it's more so, it's like saying the movie for me, it's Harrison Ford's acting. I love watching Harrison Ford movies. He's one of the top actors from the 80s and the late 70s. Star Wars, man. You're like, okay, who's this new guy coming around? Yes. Then you saw Raiders, you know. Mm-hmm. And I call it Star Wars. I don't call it New Hope. I don't call it 4 or whatever.
Star Wars. That's what it was.
Star Wars. That's what it was. That's how it started off as Star Wars. Nothing else. Same with Raiders. It was Raiders. It was Raiders of the Last Ark. You know, it's not Indiana Jones. I don't care if you made prequels. Fuck that bullshit. Pardon my French, but still. Like I said, I like watching Harrison Ford in these movies. The other one here's another one he did a while back before this, though. Even before that, Force 10 from Navarone. I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard good things about it though. But I'm looking at his IMDb after these movies, like he did like Hollywood Homicide, which is okay. It wasn't that bad. Great. Kane the Widowmaker. I forgot about that. That's another good movie he's done in the 90s.
There's a lot of sub movies in the 90s, guys, because of Tom Clancy. But
like I said, like I love this, you know, and Harrison Ford right here what's really trippy about this is you see him right here running. I don't remember there being a subway train in this chase scene at least. Maybe I missed it as a deleted scene, but I was out about this. Like, where is this scene from that we see on the thumbnail? I'm like, that's not in here. That's the sequel.
The big train derailing scene.
Yeah, he wasn't running along the L train. No, no, but also he is a Chicago native. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, too. Yep. So, and the more I learn about some of these actors, like Bill Murray, he's also from Chicago.
Second City, yeah. Mm-hmm. Big thing in the 60s and 70s with comedy. Also, SCTV from up in Canada with John Kennedy and all the other people from that clan there too. A lot of them are on popular TV today now. One
August.
of the last things I'll say about this is, you mentioned seeing something for Harrison Ford. I think in chat, Morania's got a really great comparison there. We've been reviewing the second season of Columbo, which has a different set of writers and stuff with it, so it's a little bit different for me. It still follows the Columbo template where you see what happens at the beginning, and so how Columbo gets to the murderer at the end is what you're watching unravel for. Kind of the same way here. To your point, there's flashbacks. We see what happens with the one-armed man with his wife. We see what he goes through to do it. You have like these parallel kind of chases. You've got Harrison chasing the one-armed man. You've got him being chased by that, and then of course it's all going to collide at the end. So it's really cool, and that sense of pace and momentum building is really, really, really great. But there's just something about chasing, right? At some point there's going to be a collision. There's no getaways. Something's got to happen, right?
It's everything we've all thought about. It's like, if you, not that we ever would, I don't think of us would ever be wanted by the law, but you thought about, what would you do if someone's hunting you? How long would you make it? And especially when a guy's in it like this, you are rooting for him to make it, but you come across as like, wait, Tommy Lee Jones's character is really badass too. I like that his character, and
you're not rooting for him either.
No, you're not rooting to catch him. No, you're not rooting for him. But you're also come to respect this guy because he's not a dick. He's not a corrupt cop. He's not a lazy, and he puts all the other cops to shame. The ones we don't like, the ones that waste our taxpayer dollar in Illinois. It is just a fun movie. I cannot stress this enough. If you've not seen this movie, you are wasting your time watching anything that's coming out today. Go back and watch this. You're gonna like it, and if you don't like it, leave me a comment down below, and why you have no taste.
Well, it's interesting because you know what, I would put this movie up against any of the Mission Impossibles that are out, and those are great. Obviously, a movie like this coming out with somebody that's playing not the role that you and I have talked about so much here on the Extreme Movie Show for the 80s actors, the physical ones that then turn into guns and violence, an intellectual hero of sorts like that, I think is great. There's very few things like it today, and I just wish there were more of them because, again, I agree. This is a fantastic movie. This would probably be on everybody's short list of movies that you would always have in your catalog up there. To me, it's just that good of a movie. If you're a Harrison Ford fan, it just should cement to you with all the stuff that he did in his 90s. If some people like to watch movies linearly, some people, I heard about this one, so I'll do that. Or these guys are talking about it on YouTube. I've never heard about it, or well, from what I think about it, sounds different than what they're saying. Maybe I'll give it a shot. That's why we do what we do. But it is so good, and I have a tendency to dislike a lot more things currently than you do, but that's what we do, is we try to talk about what we like and what we don't like on it. But I'm glad this is one of those few movies that we both can agree on, that there's just almost no flaws to it. It's one definition of a great movie is a movie that has no bad scenes or average scenes, just a bunch of good ones strung together and no obvious gaping holes to it. But this one has so many good scenes that somehow they just kind of, the sum is better than the parts, kind of like a perfectly cooked meal or something like that. It's just, it really is that good. And I hate sounding cheesy, no pun intended, but this movie, I was like, okay, this movie would be okay. It's Harrison Ford. But then I'm watching, I'm like, okay, this is good. Hey, this is still good. Hey, this is pretty damn interesting. Man, audience is really into it. And it's just, it took on a life of its own while you're watching it. Very few movies can do that.
Do you notice there was no Gillette ad like Pierce Brosnan did in in Tomorrow or Die Another Day? The shaver he uses there was no product placement really in this.
Not the way it is today, or how it would turn into, obviously. But
even back then, because Wayne's World made fun of all the product placement stuff they always had,
right?
So I also want one last thing, I want to bring up, you guys, if you haven't done so, the poll is up for this Sunday. We got Terminator 2 Judgment Day from 1991. I also got Time Cop from 1994. We're taking a stab at that again, revisiting that.
The greatest movie of all time, according to JCVD.
and Total Recall from 1990.
3 heavyweight movies.
So you got JCVD being double teamed by the 2 Arnold movies. I got Imagine. My prediction is T2 is going to win because so many people have a fondness with that movie. You Could Be Mine. Obviously, that song's attached to that too, under Guns N' Roses. But Time Cop, I will argue that that's a really good movie from the 90s. But man, Total Recall is also got a special heart, especially in my heart, with Michael Ironside as the bad guy.
Yep.
Sharon Stone as the bad chick,
Yep.
hot bad chick. I'm like, can I go back to that? That's another. If we talk about that movie, we're going to talk about, would you want to go back to reality or stay with Sharon Stone and make love to her?
Oh, reality wins every time.
Not for me. I'll stick with Sharon Stone.
Well, let's see what the audience wants us to review. That'll be pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. That poll is up right now, correct?
Yeah, we have 11 votes on it right now. Looking forward to seeing if we get 1,000 votes again. That was kind of crazy for that, and I don't know, maybe because the last one because Anaconda may have been trending because Jack Black wants to redo it,
right?
But I do appreciate everybody who votes in the poll, and also those who come show up. Maranya, I saw MKF30 popped in here too.
Mm-hmm.
And a few others that pop up here and watching in the replay. It's just fun talking about these movies and just rehashing the 90s, man. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, the 90s weren't ever that great. Let's go back to the 80s or the 70s. The 90s had a few bangers when it came to films. And I'm looking forward to talking about some more Harrison Ford movies.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that too, as well as good 90s films.
I'm also looking forward to adding on to the Tommy Lee Jones playlist. So if we ever do Men in Black, that'll be thrown in there too. But before we do Men in Black, I'd prefer to do U.S.
Miner's Daughter.
Coal Miner's Daughter, nothing wrong with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, other than that, watch this movie, and I think if you haven't done so, please subscribe, hit the like button. If you can, just share this out to your friends, and say you don't have time to actually sit down and listen to this, or when you do, just let it play on mute, if you're at work, or even the other ones, every playlist, let it go, because we do appreciate, we need everybody being here. We do need the watch time. Unfortunately, even though we're over 1,000, we only have over 1,000 hours of watch time. So if you can go back, check out some of the playlists. I'm going to reorganize them to make it easier for you guys to find all the stuff. And thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys on Sunday.
Yeah. You guys have a good night. Thanks for watching, listening, all that too. Stay extreme. Looking forward to the poll.
All right.
Good night now.
Later, guys.